I'm excited to talk to you in general. I was thinking of doing a little, maybe like a little podcast conversation series called Getting to Know, because I
Yeah.
obviously believe in connecting deeper to yourself before
Mm.
you can connect better to others. And especially in the gay community, we're all struggling with
Yeah.
relationships and connections. So I'm really excited to have this conversation with you and get to know you a little bit deeper because we have never actually spoken about
No, we
your
always stopped
relationships.
because we knew we were going to talk on here.
Totally, totally. I know all
You're
about
like,
your
no, don't tell me.
business. Yeah. Business, I know everything.
Yeah.
You're smashing it, super
Thank
successful,
you.
and I'm very proud of you.
Thank
But I
you.
think this conversation is going to be really interesting. And thank you for sitting down with me because it's one thing for me to expose myself the way I am on
Mm.
social media. So I'm very grateful that you're here to have a chat
No, it's good.
for everyone to share.
It's also good to talk about, like you say, like the strengths in my career, and there always has been strengths in my career, but I think importantly there's like weaknesses in my personal life. And I think just speaking about things more openly and having those conversations is really important. So that's why I'm here, first of all.
That's amazing. The feedback that I'm getting in my DMs, it's all private. On Instagram, like there is one
Mm.
like, one public comment, 1,000 saves, because no one sees the saves, and then
No.
like my DMs are flooded.
Yeah.
So I know that people want to have conversations and they want to listen, they want to learn, they kind of like are looking for support. So let's do that. So you're
Mm.
saying I think let's dive right in. You're saying obviously you're very successful in your hair care brand business,
Mm.
but then you're saying relationally, I'm super curious to find out what's going on.
Yeah, I think it's like back to the career side of thing. I think there's an overcompensation there. Do you know what I mean? When you're really good at something, you tend to do it a lot better and you do it like most of the time. And I think it's like that in any sort of aspect of life, isn't it? If you are really good at like clubbing, you'll go out clubbing. Like, do you know what I mean? You could break it down into so many different sections. But I think, yeah, I strive in my career and always have done. Before I was running an econ brand, I was a successful TV producer in the UK, running some of the biggest shows in the country. And do you know what I mean? I put my life and soul into that. I put my life and soul into running an ecom, and obviously got both areas into a success. But when it comes to like dating life and like gay life, this is where I know it sounds crazy because I and people who know me especially would never ever think that it's a struggle, but I think if I'm being completely honest, it is a massive struggle. It's a massive worry, and also seeing where gay society has got to now, and like just sort of like cringing out at the whole thing, because gay life is meant to be amazing, but when you see elements that have been brought in, and it's just like, oh, why am I part of this embarrassing sort of community of people who just want to be heard and seen all the time? And I deep down, yeah, want to be heard and seen, but there's a way of going about it, and I think it sort of like bridges a gap between the people who want to be seen and heard and the people who are not so comfortable, and it just creates this world where people are so far apart, and a community that's meant to be so close together, I believe now is just like miles apart.
Especially the conversation around the gay community and the LGBT community. Obviously, a lot of political things are playing into that at the moment. And for the last
Mm.
couple of years, there is so many extreme polarities with what it should be, what it shouldn't be,
Yeah.
where you want to be involved, where you don't want to be involved. And that is a very personal
Yeah, of course. And there
subject.
are so many people who are on that train and like banging the drums for all these communities. And I love that. But there are also people who don't want to be on those journeys, and who don't feel comfortable enough to be like supporting these sort of movements and sort of screaming from the rooftops about it. And there are people who just genuinely don't agree with that as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think this is the beauty of having a gay community that is so diverse and so mixed, that there are these pockets of people within those groups. But I think also a lot of people are criticized for maybe not being so involved, and I think it's just it's a scene that needs to be accepted as like what it is, and that is a lot of broken parts. Like, that's the bottom line. The gay community, it does have broken parts, and it does have amazing parts, and it has awful parts, and it has dark parts. And I think when you're going on this journey of life and you are welcomed into this world that you had never seen before. I came from Wales, like a really like sleepy part of North Wales, and no one was gay, no one spoke about being gay. So you can imagine the dynamic for me in my like in my late teens and like 20s, where I'm going from a community where there's absolutely not even like words spoken about how you feel, into a world where it's completely accepted and crazy things are happening also as like hand in hand with that scene. So this dynamic of jumping from one to another, that shift is like huge, first of all. Then you become comfortable with a community that you're like, okay, then you start realizing, gosh, it's not as perfect as it seems. And yeah, and then you get to a stage where you're like, oh, I don't really want to be so involved with it.
100%. I think I can so relate to everything that you're saying. The growing up in a very small part of like a country that's not really got a big gay scene, and emotions not really being talked about, sexuality not really being talked about or addressed, like what that does to you
Mm,
internally, like I can very much relate to. And then being thrown in this very loud and visible gay
yeah.
culture.
And
I mean, I've
it's almost made me feel like I sort of like um what's the word I'm after? Like it almost like I explained it to you differently before, but like with gay people now, it almost like makes me not want to be around them.
Mhm.
Sorry, this is like I'm completely like digging myself a hole here, but I'm trying
Not
to
really.
explain it in a way that is palatable and like understandable. Like I think I'm what I'm trying to say is the way I was my childhood and how I progressed into becoming gay was a big part of why I am now so fearful, I think, of becoming part of the community as a whole and maybe being comfortable. Like I'm not saying it's a problem that they hold, it's more of a problem that I hold, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, for sure. Little side note. Obviously, I want to have this conversation with you, and like, this is very much a safe space. If we talk about like, almost forget that we're recording
Yeah.
and are like, speak as freely as you want.
Mm.
Because if there is something that I really want to have, I actually want to get to know you a little bit better on that
Yeah.
topic. And if there is anything where you're like, oh, actually, this is getting a bit near the mark, or I'm not sure if I want to share this publicly, just
Yeah.
let's talk about that after, and I'll just cut it out.
Oh yeah.
But
But for
for the
now,
sake
let's yeah.
for the sake of
Okay.
us having a real conversation and you really feeling like, oh, I can actually talk about myself without the public scrutinizing me,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um,
Yeah, no,
keep that
that's
in the
fair.
back of your mind for
Yeah,
sure,
okay.
because we're touching on very personal things. We're touching on identity, we're touching on beliefs, we're touching on belonging
Mm,
and fear of belonging, we're touching on association and everything. I'm a big believer in system psychology. I mean, like, I'm making sense of the world that
mm,
I found it very difficult to make sense of through psychology.
mm,
And system psychology, or like a systematic approach, kind of like puts you in the system of everything. Like, everything in the world is a system. You have your inner internal system. The gay community itself is a system. There is blue haired activists who are gender fluid, and then there is hypermasculine, like circuit gays on
mm,
both ends of the spectrum, and everyone's influencing each other in a system.
mm.
And I think whenever there is big polarities and big extremes, people, you just use the word fearful, are fearful to associate with a system.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about, you've just touched on your childhood growing up in Wales, kind of
Mm.
removed from all of that. What was that like for you?
It was definitely difficult. It was a life or a period spent trying to hide the fact I was gay. It was going through school being bullied about being gay but trying to hide it. So it was this constant fight with my own sort of self to sort of like become this person that I wasn't. And that was mostly down to the fact that I was constantly being asked if I had a girlfriend, or I was constantly being asked if I was gay, like why I was different, why I was like eccentric, why I was out there, and not sort of like just allowing me to become the person I wanted to be. Like it was only really when I turned 18, once I'd got away from Wales, that I really could even begin to experiment with my sexuality. So it was a very late sort of period of my life when, I mean, not everyone comes out early in their life, but like when you're not really experimenting until you're like 20, 21, it's like it's quite late in your early life to start realizing what you like and what you don't like. And then before that, all I've sort of learned is like that I just have to bring up this front all the time. Like I'm on edge waiting for a question that I don't really want to have to answer. And I think that builds this weird this weird like wall within you that you'll constantly use as your tool. Do you know what I mean? Because when you've had to, do you know what I mean? You grow up using this defense mechanism, and then you come into your adult life then and you start noticing that it's being brought through as well there.
I mean, you're putting it in such perfect words. The thing about the gay experience that I hear and see with so many other gay men is that developmental period of your teenage years
Mm,
is kind of defined by hiding and not by connecting. So you then enter your 20s and kind of start what your straight counterparts were allowed to do at 11, 12, 13 years old.
mm,
Now, once you've left that time, is when you're in your, like almost like a decade later, is where
yeah,
that period starts for you or for us as gay people.
yeah.
And you've perfectly described it as a mask, like a shield that you hide behind. And what I always like to remind gay people who are like, why am I struggling with relationships so much? It's because you've had you've learned to hide
Mm,
before you learn to connect.
yeah.
And especially
And
during a time where the developmental goal is to connect, especially intimately,
yeah,
sexually, associate with like peer groups. Who do I belong to? Who don't I belong to?
yeah.
And with so many of us, that kind of results. And I'm curious if it did the same for you. It results in isolation and then hiding and
Mm.
feeling lonely.
I don't think it resulted in isolation and feeling lonely. I think it developed into a connection to the straight community, like building connections
Mm.
there and feeling safe there and like having friendships there, and then completely being fearful of replicating that in the gay community. Like, don't get me wrong, I've got loads of gay friends who I love dearly, but there are strengths in my straight relationships where um I don't feel so exposed, if you know what I mean, or like worried about like what the judgment is from that person. And I think that I attach that feeling of like judgment as well in the gay community to a lot of people because there's a lot of judgment. You don't have a six pack, like you don't look a certain way. And the majority of the community think and act and live their lives like this. And so does society as a whole. Whereas I don't. Like I'm
Yeah.
very much like I try to be as authentic as I possibly can. Like I like to speak my mind as clearly as I can. And these two worlds clash very like easily. And I wonder if there is a world where they both coexist. But right now, what I'm saying to you on the whole of like what I see in gay society, it's very fickle, it's very fake, and that's not me as a person. And I think that's why there is a bit of a gap between where I put myself now and where I could be.
I'm very grateful for having met you and to have people like you in my life because for me personally, it counteracts the belief that the gay community is full of awful people who are fickle, who are only worried about does he have a six pack, like you said, all those external factors, and no one can actually make deep, meaningful connections. Every
Mm,
time I meet someone like you and I have conversations like this, it reaffirms the belief that, hey, there is actually people
yeah,
like me out there. There is people that make me feel like I can be authentic and I can be myself and I
yeah,
can belong. So I'm every time that there is someone like this in my life, I cherish them and it helps me to move myself away from this. Oh my God, the gay world is so awful. Gay life is going to be a lonely, detached, unloved experience.
mm.
Let's
And
talk about
rejection
your,
and rejection is like a big part of that.
yeah.
And when you live in the gay world and you see rejection happening so easily and so quickly and like without second thought, like you then bring that into your own life and you wonder like, oh well, like for example, like if you use Grinder, for example, I haven't had my face on Grinder until now. I'm 37 years old. My whole life, I've lived with like a faceless profile on Grinder
Mm.
because I'm too scared to even like have my face on there. Like, do you see what I'm saying?
What's the fear?
I don't know what the fear is. I think when I was working in television, I think the fear was like, oh, my job's just a little bit like, oh, do you know what I mean? Like I work in these places. It's very like I don't know. I thought it would affect my work, like especially being in that environment. Do you know what I mean? And I think now that I'm not doing that line of work and there is no worries there, I am a bit more comfortable. And like literally, it was only probably 3 weeks ago I decided to put my face picture on as my profile picture on Grindr, and I hadn't done that for my whole life.
Wow.
And
What's changed?
I think the change is Bali, and I think coming to a place where the gay community just really doesn't exist was the biggest thing, and realizing, okay, if I'm not going to put myself out there, I'm not going to find people who align with me and who are in my orbit. And I think in places like Bali, there are obviously gay scenes, but that it's narrowed down to like one place, and it's really tacky. It's really quite like embarrassing. So I don't really hang out in that one place. Um, and so you have to work outside the box, don't you? And you have to think, well, if I want to meet people, where am I going to meet them? You try things like Hinge, that works here, but then you try things like Bumble, it's not really my style. And then Grindr is probably one of the only places where you probably can meet people. Obviously, there's a much stronger sexual aspect to it, but I think in Bali, it's less so because I think people understand it might be a good meeting place to meet people as well. So that I feel like there's a more of a mix on it here than maybe in London where people are literally using it for one purpose.
Right. Let's talk about your dating a little bit because you mentioned you have a interesting relationship to dates.
Yes. So I have probably been on my in my entire life probably been on 3 or 4 dates max. Absolute max. Like I've had 3 boyfriends um my whole life, and none of them really like long term. One quite toxic, one actually probably two quite toxic ones. And the third was more recently. But yeah, I think nothing really like that really matched my vibe, like felt a true connection to. My dating life is very much like transactional at the moment, and I don't tend to like get to know people deeper in that environment. It's just like a show and go sort of vibe. And yeah, and actually getting to know people deeper is where I'm struggling at the moment, because I think I attach a fear to having to do that, and then I pull back, and then I'm in an environment where I'm not doing it at all. So there are elements where I'm trying to push myself and where I'm trying to have conversations with people, but yeah, it is definitely more difficult here for sure. But I think it's a good part of my life because I think when you peel things back and you don't have access to the gay life like I did in London, because I think you have to compare things like what traits do you have in gay communities in London, and things are like alcohol, drugs driven, like sex driven. And when you take yourself away from that and peel yourself away from that, I think it gives you an opportunity to get to know yourself and understand those parts of you rather than there being all this noise and it's like, oh my God. Like there's none of that. So you're actually in peace and you're just listening to actually how you feel, and there's no distraction. And I think having like taking it back to basics is the best way to describe it, like of being gay, like almost like the baby steps at the beginning, like you're getting drip fed these small moments with gay people and you're getting to enjoy those for what they are rather than for this tidal wave of gayness just drowning you. Do you see what I'm saying? Does that make any sense at all?
It makes a lot of sense. I've
Yeah.
actually I've had a conversation recently about the importance of being in your own space and removing yourself from that kind of environment to just whether it's for a day, whether it's for a week, or whether it's to move to Bali for a year,
Mm,
it's it's important to reconnect with yourself and
yeah.
to really understand, okay, what actually feels aligned in this community,
Mm,
what parts of the community do I resonate with? What parts of the community do I not resonate with?
Yeah.
Can I can I look inwards and
Yeah.
see why I resist or
Yeah.
reject or judge certain parts of the community and where I might judge those parts in myself? You
Mm,
can only really do that kind of work if you're taking the time, if you're slowing down and you're
mm,
taking the time, have conversations like this
mm.
and really get to know yourself.
Yeah.
I'm curious what you've discovered during that time for you.
Well, I wanted to just bring up a conversation that I had last night just surrounding sex because I think it gives a good contrast into like actually the reality of gay life here because I think especially straight people assume that gay people are just having sex all the time. And I was out having dinner with my friend Ivan last night and he was like, "Oh yeah, but you're just sucking dick all the time." And I was like, I can actually count on one hand in the last year how many times I've had sex. And I said, it's not like five, it's like two or three times. Like, and that is it. Like, do you know what I mean? So I think there's this perception as well that gay people are just constantly out having fun all the time, but it's not the reality. I mean, it's not the reality for me here. And I think going back to your question of like what I've discovered about myself, like I think the most important part of this whole journey moving here, like obviously there's it's it for me it's a bigger picture outside of just gay life, like it's like business development, it's personal development, like just being like happy and truly like exist within myself, like I should be doing, and along with that the gay life comes with it. Do you know what I mean? And I think the discovery in Bali, like I haven't, like if I'm honest, I haven't been trying to discover. Like I've just been happy with like hiding away from it. And
Wow.
I think recently, um, I've been telling myself, right, you have to make steps now, and you have to make steps into like doing more about this because you recognize there is a void there. You recognize that you are getting older and you're gonna like go into like your older years, like maybe being lonely. Like, do you possibly want to like resolve this now? And the answer is yes. And I think I am taking like little baby steps, and like I said, the putting my display picture on Grinder is one thing. And then also last night before I went for dinner, I remembered one of my other friends said to me, he's like, "Why don't you just go down to Times Beach like for sunset? Like it's full of gay people, like they're everywhere." And I was like, "Okay, well tonight I'm just gonna go. I'm not gonna like set a task like talk to people, but I'm just gonna go and just see." And that's what I did last night because usually I do a walk along like a different part of the beach, which is up by Morabito with my friends, the straight friends, and I never ever see any gay people there. So do you know what I mean? I've almost been sheltered this whole year in Bali where I go for walks with my straight friends. I've never seen this vibe, and then someone just turns up and says, "Oh, you should just go to Times Beach," which is like literally 5 minutes down the road. And I went there last night, and I was like, "Whoa, this is actually crazy! Like there are gay people here." And just putting myself into those environments. I know it sounds completely crazy because it's like you're just going for a walk on the beach, but to me, it is a bigger thing because I've been hiding away from it.
Yeah, you're putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
It's for sure. Let's go together. It's always
Yeah,
easier to, I
defo.
mean, it's right here. Let's do it together and meet
Yeah.
people in real life because putting yourself out there is super scary, especially for people like us who have been the default was to hide.
Yeah.
You're saying you're now realizing, oh, actually, I can't run away from this. I should probably face this head
Yeah.
on and talk
But
about this stuff.
I think I've like I don't like I was saying about the career thing and like overcompensating in that area of my life. Like, do you know what I mean? Like that is the running away, isn't it? Like if you think about, but in some senses it can be seen as like running away. But I think I've used it as a good like, oh, but look how great my career is. Look how great my business is. But actually, it's just hiding the fact that when I go home for Christmas, my friends and family are then going, "Oh, so you're dating now?" And I'm like shit, oh fuck, no, not at the moment. And you just have these canned answers that you give to everyone, and I don't want to have to be that person. I want to be able to go home this Christmas and be like, oh yeah, I've been dating this guy, like, and that's the thing. And I think one thing that really hurt me like last year was my mum at Christmas had a really honest conversation with me, and she revealed to me that she was worried about like my future and like whether I was going to find love, and she wanted that for me, and she got very upset about it. And I just thought, what, my actions are now even hurting my family. Do you know what I mean? And I know that that is just something that she's experiencing, but actually deep down, like, and then you question, do I want it or do I not want it? Like, or is there a reason here that is stopping me from flowing in relationships with guys?
What was that conversation
What,
about? What was she worried
what
about?
well, and this is the other thing, I shut it off pretty quickly because I was just like, she'd had a couple of drinks, and I think the relationship with me and my mum, like, is good, but in terms of being able to talk about like sexuality and like relationships, goes back again to my fear of like being asked about a girlfriend and then not being able to talk and just cutting that conversation off. So I think my knee-jerk reaction in any of these situations is to stop the conversation like dead in its feet. So
Yeah.
the only distance my mum got was just saying to me that she was worried that I hadn't had a partner for a while, and like I think she was worried about her getting into her old age and like dying, and me being left like feeling lonely and not even having my mum there. Do you know what I mean? As like my confidant, and just not being around to be able to just put herself into that situation where she can talk to me and make me feel all right. Not that it makes me feel bad at all, because this is normal life for me. I don't feel like there is an issue there, but I recognize there might be. Do you know what I mean? Deeper. If you're thinking about actually my actions and what I'm doing and what's not coming into my life and what is coming into my life, there is a big, big gap. Like, when I also compare it to, this is the other thing, comparing everything. Like when you compare it to other gay people and how they operate in this world and how easy they go out into a pub, start talking to someone, and then before you know it, they've like pulled. Like, I'm not that person. And I have to ask myself why. Like, what causes that?
The relationships between gay sons and their mothers are fascinating to me.
Mm,
There is definitely some parallels that I always, always, always see. That's why I asked for you to elaborate on that a little bit.
mm,
Fascinating.
yeah.
It's important to talk about these things because sometimes, like you said, sometimes other people see things in us that we don't see ourselves.
Mm,
And when they, so you're like, hey, this is all I know. This is all I know. I'm taking care of myself. I'm
mm,
fine on my own. I'm just doing my thing. And then
yeah.
all of a sudden your mum or someone from your family comes and they're like, hey, but I'm a little bit worried. And then all
Yeah.
of a sudden you're like, should I be worried?
Yeah.
And then it makes you question yourself. It's important. But on your own, if no one had asked you this, you would have never
I
stopped to reflect.
No, I would have literally been just continuing with my life. And I don't think I'm like thinking that I need to make change because of that conversation. Like, that's not what happened. Like, I think it just brings it into perspective, doesn't it? And then makes you realize, actually, I've been so busy, like living this like life of like a TV producer in London, which is crazy. And like everyone's like, constantly, like my life is evolves around people telling me how proud they are of me or how amazing my job is. Like, and this sort of like like it deflects from everything else. Do you know what I mean? Because people then see you as that thing that has this success in one area, but actually that's the conversation. They're not like, oh, who's he dating? They probably are behind your back. They're going, oh yeah, he's not dated for a while or whatever. But in terms of like the like when people are introduced to other people, they use like what you do as like the vehicle of explaining who you are, don't they? So I think, yeah, I think I've had this good sort of like meat to the bone per se for people to talk about, but actually deeper, there's things missing.
I mean, achievements are a very funny thing for men, for gay men, but for any man, really. You've achieved a lot, and your achievements are definitely something to be very proud of, especially with the moves that you're making in your business right now. I mean, I speak to gay men who are wildly successful. And I
Mm,
mean, like, if you look at many gay men, they are honing onto their craft, which is business and their career, and
mm,
whether they're in finance or like trading architects, lawyers, like they are so like gay men are really quite powerful and successful when it comes to the capitalism side of things.
Yeah, that's
And then
very
there is
interesting. In any workplace as well, the gays are often high up, like promoted often, like very good at their jobs. Like,
yeah,
and I think this is another element of like the fear of hiding thing. Like it overcompensates probably you have to be the best, like you have to push yourself because you've been rejected in other elements of your life. So when you have this opportunity to push yourself up those ladders, you're gonna take it. Whereas I don't think straight people have that pressure. Like you want to be seen as like the cool gay guy in the office or whatever. Like you're doing so well, you're running this huge TV show. And I think that's yeah, it's very interesting that you said that.
yeah. It's not to bore anyone with like some psychological insight, but in my book I write about achievement-based identities.
Mm,
And I referenced John Bradshaw, he's done incredible work on toxic shame and how if you're, and obviously internalized homophobia and internalized shame is
yeah.
no surprise to anyone
Mm,
for gay people, but he talks about how that kind of feeling pushes you from being a human being and forces you to be a human doing. And
mm,
then you kind of have to achieve to feel worthy, right? And you achieve and you achieve and you achieve, and you're hotter and you're richer and you're smarter and you're more impressive to
mm.
the point where that almost like disconnects you even further from other people and yourself. And
Yeah.
then you've achieved, I mean, most of the people who get in touch with me, they are already at that point. They have achieved everything and they have it
Yeah.
all. And they're like,
But still
oh,
there's something we're saying.
whereas why am I not fulfilled?
Yeah.
Who can I share this with?
Yeah.
And that's usually in their like 30s and 40s.
Mm,
And that's why I'm finding it fascinating to speak to you right now, because this is exactly the point where
yeah.
you are at. And
Yeah.
I'm curious to understand what you wish for.
Like I
Now that, but
want
because
mm,
the great thing about you is you're not blaming the outside world. You're like, wait a minute, I've stopped. I've slowed down, and I think I need to look inwards a little bit. And this
yeah.
is the kind of like plot twist now, where you
Yeah.
have the big opportunity to figure that out.
Yeah. I think in terms of like I definitely do want a loving relationship. Like I don't know when people say, "Do you want kids?" I don't know if I do. I think with the right person, that is obviously definitely something that you would want to do. But I think yeah, when you peel it back, it feels like even saying that is like weird because I'm like putting a caveat on it. Do you know what I mean? Um,
Oh,
but
trust
obviously,
me.
but obviously, this is what society teaches you as well. Society teaches you should be in a relationship, you should have kids, you should. And I think I'm just that that person in my family bloodline who's not doing that, and that's okay as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
You don't have to do the things that society tell you is the right thing to do. But it would be nice. Do you know what I mean? But then again, that could also just be me like putting my walls up again. Do you know what I mean?
it would be so nice. It would
Yeah.
be so nice to just follow what has worked for generations and repeat what your
Mm.
grandparents taught your parents and then your parents taught you. But then all of a sudden you're like, oh, wait, I'm probably not going to marry a woman and I'm probably
Yeah.
not going to have children with that woman and build my white picket fence house
Yeah.
and live happily ever after and have kids and a dog. And then you're, because I'm not going to be with a woman. And then
Mm.
obviously those thoughts they happen pretty early on during like teenage years, early 20s. What do you do with these thoughts? Oh,
Yeah.
okay, gay marriage is a thing, so I can marry. So like, but then do I want to get married? Like there is so many questions. The thing is, for us gay people, we need to be a little bit more compassionate to ourselves
Yeah.
for not having the answers,
Yeah.
because we are thrust into the deep end and like just thrown into cold water and be like, yeah, figure it out yourself. Like you have no template. You
No.
don't you can choose everything. The world's your
Yeah.
oyster. Do you want to
Yeah.
like party until the rest of your life? Do you want
Yeah.
to also follow a marriage and have children? Do you want to be single? Do you want to be polyamorous? Like there is so many overwhelming options. And there's a great book called The Paradox of Choice, which kind of explains that if you have too many options, it becomes paralyzing.
Yeah.
And then you're at the point where you're asking yourself, is this me putting my walls up, or is this, am I just, do I not know what to do? Like, what's going on?
Yeah. I think, but that's quite an interesting thing. Like, have you got the toolkit to do it? Is the other question. Do you know what I mean? And if you haven't been taught the toolkit, exactly, like
Why do you think I
you
wrote this book?
exactly, because people like me are sitting there going, "Fuck!" Like, I don't even know that I have the ability to do it. And like, uh,
Oh,
a pressure in the community as well about like being like monogamous or whether you're promiscuous and like non like you're basically I can't even think of the word now. Why have I gone blank? So you either like
monogamous
um
or polyamorous?
no
Open relationship?
open relationship, that's what I'm after, yeah. So there's a lot of pressure, and I think my last relationship, when the guy I was dating like put it on me that I had to be in an open relationship with him if I was going to be in one at all, like all these things are like, what? Like I am so like fearful of being in a situation where I'm having to share a partner, and with the gay world, like a lot of success in relationships come when you're in open relationships. So I look at that as well, and that really freaks me out. And like I deep down, I'm a monogamous person. I get into a situation and I love that person dearly, and I wouldn't even dream of thinking like of straying away from that. And when I see the behaviors of gay people in relationships and how people are just so easy to cheat or to not want that, I just then question like, so is does this even exist out there? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because you
no,
then have
100%.
this fear from other situations that you've been in.
Yeah. Uh, it definitely exists. It
Mm,
definitely, every kind of relationship dynamic exists. And I think, especially when it comes to the conversation of open relationships, especially on social media, they are very much demonized. It's a very polarizing topic to talk about. And
mm,
you hear people in New York saying, my God, you can't find a boyfriend, you can't find a date who doesn't already have a husband, who doesn't already have a boyfriend. There are
yeah,
80% of the people in New York are in gay open relationships, like it's impossible.
yeah,
That's why I'm saying it's important if you're getting caught in that narrative and if you're getting caught in that environment, you're going to end up believing that, which
yeah,
is why, tying back to what we said earlier, oftentimes I find it very beneficial to remove yourself a little bit, take a step back, take
mm,
some time for yourself and
mm,
think, what's actually true? I
yeah,
know what I believe, but
yeah,
what's actually true? And also, when it comes to the open relationship, yes or no, it's good or bad, I always encourage to look inwards and to really understand what the fear is. What's the fear of being in an open relationship, or what's the fear of being in a monogamous relationship? And investigating yourself rather than judging other people what they're doing or being afraid that there's none left for you.
mm,
It's a very scarce way of thinking, and scarcity always insinuates fear.
yeah,
Fear is really worth investigating, which
yeah,
is why having these conversations is great. And I'm curious, you said like, are you terrified of having to share someone, and you're
yeah,
terrified that there's no one left who wants to
yeah,
be monogamous? And I
yeah.
can definitely tell you that there is a lot of people who want to be in a
Of,
monogamous relationship.
of course, of course. And I think, but because the percentages are high on that not being the norm, that's what you see most of the time. Do you know what I mean? But then if you think to like manifestation as well, like what you just said, like the scarcity and like all that sort of environment, like you have these thoughts, you're going to attract that thing. So obviously like working in myself in Bali is like a big part because like especially with my business, like learning how to attract and like be in the right ecosystems and like just in that these environments that help things grow. I also just need to like transfer that into my gay dating life. Do you know what I mean?
It's
Rather than it just being career driven or whatever or
It's
help.
brilliant you bring this up. Yeah, we talk a lot about attachment styles and being avoidant, being anxious, being fearful avoidant. And I think they are helpful. I certainly make a lot of content about attachment styles because that's what people want to see.
Mm,
But I really value a broader understanding of psychology and not just seeing anxious and avoidant attachment as a relational dynamic
Mm,
because your attachment style is how you attach to everything. It shows up in your friendships. Your attachment style shows up in your business partnerships, in your career. It's all going to be different, but like you have attachments to you have attachments to money. You have
mm,
attachments to materialistic things, like things you can't let go of,
mm,
people you can't let go of, people you're afraid of losing, things you're afraid of losing,
mm,
the attachment to your house, the attachment to your ability to, you fill in the blank. You have attachments to everything. And obviously, being in Bali, there was a very spiritual aspect of
mm.
detachment and like really understanding you're
Yeah.
fine on your own. And that's obviously the path to secure attachment as well. But I think relationships really give you a straight insight into, oh, maybe there is something that I can look at in the
Mm,
way that I attach to people.
yeah.
And because you're, it's like mirrors, like the people that you run into, it's always the same dynamic. It's
Yeah.
always like you're dating the same person just with a different face. And
Yeah.
at some point, you're like, oh, I've been pointing the fingers for a couple of years at the other people, but it's always the same. And if
Yeah.
things are always the same, maybe,
Yeah.
you know, maybe I need to
Exactly.
look at some stuff.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
tell me about some of the relationship history that you've experienced.
Um, so like, where shall I start? Shall I start with like the most toxic one?
Wherever your mind takes you.
Well, I think that's probably um the most that like that was the one that I said earlier about the guy who had basically put it out on the table that I needed to be in an open relationship with him. And then I
Oh,
remember being in a like it was like a night after it was like we'd been in Vauxhall and we went round to this other sort of gay couple's flat and things started turning sexual. And this was obviously after the conversation. And I just remember the jealousy I felt in my body, like throughout it, when one of the guys touched my boyfriend. And I was so scared about what was going to happen. And I just grabbed him. I was like, we're getting out of here now. And that was the moment I realized I couldn't do it. I couldn't share the person that I love with someone else. And also, I couldn't understand his mentality of like wanting to be able to do that when he had something with me. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
So that was the first, like I think the first proper relationship where it was like on and off, like didn't know what was happening, but the way he was treating me was difficult. Do you know what I mean? And he was
How
never
how so? Difficult how?
just I think a lot of the time he would be very mysterious about what he was doing. He would be like, "I'm going to see a friend," but he would never say the name of the friend. And because he hung out in gay circles, I'd always be like, "Oh well, he's obviously like fucking that person because why would he be so mysterious about this?" So in my head, it developed this constant anxiety about this relationship because he wasn't honest and he couldn't be honest because he probably was cheating. And to this day, I know he was cheating. Do you know what I mean? So all these things that my gut's telling me are wrong, I knew were wrong. But I still came back for more. I still wanted to, like, it was almost like you start feeding the beast. Do you know what I mean? And then you know that that person that exists inside you and how you act in that moment, in those moments, like, start coming out more often. And like, you become this person that you're really not proud of. And I use that as a bit of an excuse, like now in my relationships and why I work so much and why I don't date so much. Like I often say to my friends, I'm like, I feel like I'm a psychopath in relationships. Like I look back to that one where even in one situation, like I don't. The thing is, I don't feel anger. Like I genuinely don't have the ability to feel angry. Like it's so weird. Like I think I know what it feels like, but you know those people that punch walls and like they get so angry and they see red. I've never in my life had that feeling. I've only ever had frustration, which is like, oh, I'm really annoyed about that. Like, but I've never had anger where you see red and you want to hurt someone or like it just doesn't exist in my life. But in this relationship, I felt like there were moments where something would happen and I would like pretend that I was angry. I would pretend to have these feelings where I would throw my phone against the wall. And then literally be in this moment like, why am I faking this? Why am I faking this angry emotion just to show this guy I'm unhappy with how he's been treating me and breaking my phone in the process. And I pick up my phone, I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Like, that was an anger, that was an act. It was fully an act just to make him feel or think that I was angry. So it was a weird situation because I went through it. It was probably about a year on and off, and he was very like he was very protective about the title of boyfriend. He would pull it away. He would not give it, so like, and then he would be like, well, for you to have that you need to be so it was like a lot of mind games. For you to have that status, you need to be happy that we're in an open relationship, and you need to be happy knowing that I'm going to be getting with other people.
Transactional.
Exactly. And this was, if you think about it, this was one of my first gay relationships. One of my first moments where I'm learning about being gay, and this is the experience I have. Like someone who's like telling me that I can't even have a title unless I agree. Like, what? It's wild. Like you can't come to a conclusion with the person that you've been getting on with for so long, and like you have great chemistry with, but you're putting these terms and conditions on it based on what you actually want to be doing. And maybe it was a me thing again. Do you know what I mean? Maybe he's saying out loud these things. Like he's saying, I want to be in an open relationship, but I'm hearing, oh my God, but why are you cheating? Like, do you see what I mean? It's like two very different worlds. He's being clear, but I'm not taking it. I'm just like, I know what I want and I'm not accepting. But I think because I didn't have the tools to know how to navigate that relationship, I never knew how to get out of it. And I was in it and I was like addicted to it and not addicted to it. And like, oh my God, I'm going to walk away, but I'm not. And I think, yeah, and it does cause damage, definitely. Because I think elements of that experience now like thread through into my life here. And this was over 10 years ago, do you know what I mean? Especially like the fears around like what I was saying about being in an open relationship or guys. And I think a lot of um the thoughts of the community being mostly majority open, I think come from that experience.
For sure. I mean, thank you for sharing. First of all, there was a lot to unpack. The
Mm,
first thing that comes to mind is the what really resonates with me is the intensity of that situation.
mm,
And I have lots of conversations with very many different gay people. And oftentimes they say, oh, I know you talk a lot about shame and trauma, but I've had no trauma. Like my
mm,
childhood was great. And I understand.
mm.
And if you didn't have it, I'm not here to tell you that you've experienced trauma or whatever, but I, from experience, can tell you that even if you've had no trauma, and if you start dating other gay men, that can be very traumatic
Yeah,
because you're going to meet another gay man and they've probably experienced trauma. If even
yeah,
if you didn't experience any trauma in your childhood, you're
yeah.
going to meet someone who has a lot of trauma, and then you're going to end up in a dynamic that is in and of itself traumatizing.
Mm,
Understanding that helps to stop blaming.
mm,
It helps to empathize. It helps to stop blaming. It doesn't excuse behavior, and it doesn't mean that you have to tolerate any dynamic like that.
mm,
But I really want to, again, why I wrote this book is I want to give access to understanding so that people can kind of have a little bit more compassion to themselves. You've said many times, like, oh, maybe it was me, maybe I was the problem. I mean, I did all of these things wrong, even if you
yeah.
said it, there's a lot of self blame. And
Yeah,
equally,
I
you
think
can,
I don't think it's like there was the option. Do you know what I mean? There's the option to turn away from it, but choosing not to turn away from it was like more of a comfort thing. Do you know what I mean? Because I've got this situation where it's toxic, but it's like almost like a bit addictive. Do you know what I mean?
oh,
And
100%.
you know the right thing is to turn away and move on to the next person, or
But for some
like
reason, you can't,
you can't. No, you're
which is
stuck.
leading, yeah, it's leading perfectly into it. Again, not to reference my book all the time, but I talk in this book, I kind of create the hypothesis, which I've never heard anyone say. And I'm very curious to get this out there so I can speak to some psychologists and gay therapists about this. But the development or the predisposition for gay men to develop a fearful avoidant attachment style and
Mm,
the conflicts that you've just described that are very intense and then like huge emotions clashing and
mm,
then the confusion and the guilt followed by, what did I just do? Am I a psychopath? Like all of
Mm.
these questions.
Yeah,
It's That's a very common experience,
yeah,
and it's damaging for both people who are in it. It's damaging for the connection, for the relationship, but it's also damaging for the individuals in it.
mm,
And then you said it, that was 10 years ago, and it still impacts you today. So I
mm,
think having an understanding and access to information for gay men out there is why I wrote this book, is why I created a framework or like a guide
mm,
to secure attachment,
yeah,
because I think it's relevant. It's important to have these conversations for people to watch, you who are still afraid to be seen, who are still
mm,
afraid to reach out for help, who
yeah,
feel comfortable at home on their phone listening to us talk about this stuff, being open about it,
mm,
and them feeling less alone, less like a psychopath, and less hopeless.
mm,
This is why I'm so grateful that you're sitting and sharing this stuff with me here.
mm.
Um, so that was your first experience.
Yeah, basically my first experience of like I'd moved to London. He was the first guy that showed proper interest in me. Not my first sexual experience, I think first gay relationship, yes. And it was very up and down the whole time. Like literally my friends were like, "You are doing damage here. Why do you keep going back? Why do you keep on like entertaining this situation?" And I suppose that was my learning curve, my mirror. Do you know what I mean? Like what knowing that how I am in those situations and like yeah realizing that my pattern of behavior like when you're becoming this psychopath like knowing what triggers that as well I think because had I not been in that situation I wouldn't know now that that element of my not personality because it's not part of me but it's a trigger isn't it like knowing what those triggers are really important and but also going back to like this like avoidant situation do I then attach that feeling or worrying about being this particular like behavior do I worry about getting there again? Yes, I think the answer is yes. Because like I said, I tell my friends, oh yeah, but when I'm in a relationship, like I become obsessive and I become a psychopath. But in reality, I'm talking about one experience. But because I've had that one experience, I think that that now would be like passed on into my other relationships.
Default.
But
And it
actually,
doesn't
I'll
have
move
to.
on. No, it doesn't. And
It doesn't have to.
I'll move on to the second relationship now, which is where I obviously no, it's not the second relationship, but I'll give you a second example, which was in Bali, which was in February this year, where I started dating a guy. And this was the time I really realized that those patterns of behavior had gone or they were only triggered by that certain situation because that experience was far more pleasant and it was the first time in my gay dating life where I feel like I was communicating better than I'd ever communicated before. Whereas this previous relationship, I'd be scared about saying certain things about how I felt or how I wanted things to look or be. I was so fearful of saying those out loud because I was worried about this title being taken away from me or him not wanting to have sex that night because I'd said something in particular. Like it was a bit of a mind game. And then I go into a situation recently where this guy listened to everything I said. He had issues for sure, like so many issues. But I knew how to navigate it better. Like this experience in particular, um, I think was the first time I realized I had the ability to say no. And I think in that
Last year,
scenario, yeah, this was no this year.
this
This
year.
was
So
in
this is
yeah,
10
February.
years later.
Yeah, 10 years later, I get into this situation with a guy. He's bisexual, and hadn't been experimenting too much with guys. He'd had one relationship with a guy. So I already knew that this was probably not right, but because that it was attention and because it was experience, I was like, do you know what? Just go along with it. Like, let's see where it goes. Like, let's see how. But I was using it as like a practicing session to just be vocal. Like I knew deep down that there probably wasn't so much like feelings there, but it was someone giving me attention. It was someone
And
who
it's
wanted
practice.
to be exactly, and it was someone who wanted to be around me and like didn't like judge me or say I looked a certain way or say I didn't have a six pack. Like there were all these things with this guy that just felt natural and normal, and having these conversations with him. And
Safer.
in that, yeah, safer, much safer. And he was very like in touch with his in touch with his emotions and his spiritual side as well. So I felt like I could say these things and make these decisions without being judged, and that was really important, I think. And I think the turning point in that relationship was basically he had told me that he saw his future with a girl, and I was like, well, that's fair enough. And then he said to me, he was like, I was abused as a child, and I think that that might be now the reason why I'm experimenting with gays. And it just really upset me, like that this guy that I've been getting on really well with felt the need to bring up something so traumatic. And I get, yeah, you can be open and honest and stuff like that, but I'm just getting to know you, and you've just now said to me you were
I'm only
abused
with
as a
you.
child, and now I think that I'm attracted to your penis because of what happened to me in my childhood. Imagine what that does to someone. Like,
What did it do to you?
well, I mean, it clearly has put me back into this like avoidant situation, because I was flowing in that moment, in that February, March time. There were two situations I had ongoing. I was being really open and honest with this one guy who told me all these things. There was another guy who went back to where he lived, and I had feelings for him, but that wasn't going to develop into anything. But I was really proud of how I was very vocal and communicative with him, because wouldn't have done this before. I wouldn't have put my cards on the table. So in terms of progression for those scenarios in February or March this year, I looked at myself and I was like, I am so proud that you just had the ability to just communicate, that you just had the balls to just say what you think. And when that guy said, oh yeah, I was abused as a child, like this is why I think I'm gay now, I had the ability to just go, no, like absolutely no, like this is not happening. Like, and obviously there were some like questions that he had in his own sort of like feelings for this relationship, and how he needed to develop and become the better person as well. But actually in that moment, knowing that actually that's a red line for me, that someone would even think to say that and not protect how I was feeling. Like if you don't understand that that is a pretty like danger, not dangerous, but it's a pretty big thing to say in a dating relationship. Like you're obviously going to turn the person off. Like you're not going to be able to pursue anything with that person after, if they're going to say that it's connected to something so traumatic.
Massively.
Mm.
So much to unpack, Jamie. I'm
Yes.
I'm looking I'm looking at the time, and we've almost talked
We-
for an hour now.
Have we?
Yeah,
Oh my
and
God.
there is, I mean, there is so many more hours that I would like to talk to you. Maybe
Yeah.
this doesn't have to be the last time we speak like this. Maybe if
No,
you're
I
down
mean,
to,
I'm down for whatever. Yeah. I'm cool. You're cool. I love talking to you.
I know
And
that you're going to LA soon,
yes,
and
next week or week
you,
after.
yeah, and you said you want to maybe put yourself out there when you're out there, and then we
Yeah.
could speak about what that looks like. What is your wish? What's your goal for the next couple of weeks, months?
I think just going back to what we said earlier about like just being putting myself out there a bit more, like so going to the beach and like just being around being in an environment where um like I see more gay people, and like I'm more likely to maybe get into conversations, like just being a bit more present, and like especially on like Grinder and stuff like that, like maybe just like trying to go on some dates, or speak like just completely like just biting the bullet and going to talk to someone that I fancy, rather than just like using humor as like this like defense mechanism. And I think a lot of that, like in gay life, that happens a lot, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like we're humorous people, like yeah, we're the life and soul of the party, but then again, like deep down and below that, when you peel it back, it's
We
it's
actually
like
need someone to be real, and
exactly,
some of the things are not as laughable as we make them to
exactly.
look. So
And
it's
yeah, and even when you look at like like straight friendship groups, and like you're the gay that they bring in, like, oh, let's invite Jamie because the party would be way better with him here. Do you know what I mean? And you become like this, almost like a bit of a show. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
They
you become a
expect
thing
you
instead of
to,
a person.
yeah, you bring the energy, you bring the vibe, and but actually. beneath that there's feelings and there's a person. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, I think so. I think my wish is to just be a little bit more comfortable with being in these environments and chatting to people and pursuing things and pushing them further than just like just rejecting. Do you know what I mean? Like because I can get myself into the situation, I can turn things into a sexual situation, but after that's done, my automatic reaction is to just shut it off, never talk to them again.
Yeah.
So
Don't let them get to know me. Well,
yeah,
obviously this whole thing is about getting to know the
mm,
person underneath and getting to know you. And I'm excited for you to start putting yourself out there. Let's keep it going. Let's do
yeah,
a couple more sessions, and then we
sure,
hopefully will allow people to take part and to see themselves in what we talk about and to relate
yeah,
and to reach out. Maybe we do a little meetup at times here
yeah.
in Bali. I
Let's
mean,
do
that
it.
could be fun.
Yeah, let's do it. And you set me a task. Like you're like, who do you fancy? And then just give me the confidence to just be able to. I don't know.
Jamie, at
I
the
don't know
end of the
what it
day,
looks like, but I'm excited.
at the end of the day, it's just about having fun. This whole
Yeah,
dating thing is meant to be fun.
yeah,
Let's have some
exactly.
fun. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for taking the time.
No,
If
thank you.
anyone was watching and has any questions, reach out, drop a comment, check out the book, How to Date a Gay Man. It's in the
Yeah.
link in my bio. You can get it on Amazon,
It's
wherever you are in
amazing
the world.
also. I've read a couple of chapters and do you know what? Yeah, you're excellent at what you do. And I think a lot of people should be very grateful that you also are being so open and helping people in this environment because like it really is a tool that yeah, I think people are gonna benefit from. So well done to you.
Thank you, Jamie. On that note, I'll see you probably next week.
Yes.